Should be good.
Perfect, thank you. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Louis Amna, and I'm here to talk about body language and to understand the fundamentals of it, because it's so important in what we do. So just to give you a little background about this, I took a class from Jan Harborough, who is a nationally renowned expert in body language. And in fact, she's so good that when Bill Clinton was testifying on the Monica Lewinsky and all that, they had her watch him in the courtroom or in his deposition to determine the authenticity of his statements.
A human polygraph?
Yeah.
Oh.
And what she said is that our body is, through biochemistry, it is impossible for us to lie and not show it, and there not be a physical manifestation. She says it's just who we are. We can't do it, and how we process information is we're created or designed that how we process any information, we will always manifest it in a physical form. And it's why that this statement, or this statement is true. In fact, communication is 7% words. 38% tone. And then, what's the rest of that? Is that 55? I think it's this, right? Is that those 45? Yeah, 55% body, it's your body. So, in fact, Joe Navarro, who is a body language expert that taught it with the FBI, he says that it's 75%. And he was the top negotiator, hostage negotiator for the FBI. And when he would negotiate, he would want, if he could have a visual on the person, it reduced the length of time in the negotiation because he knew what the person actually wanted. Because they'll never say it, but it gets manifested in your body. So to have this awareness of what, this awareness and this knowledge of what people are saying with their bodies as you're talking to them is critically important, because what would you know if you were meeting with a first time, you're meeting with a potential client, you had a listing appointment, what would you know before you actually verbally ask the question? What could you know about your client? You could know that they totally trust you. You can know that they're waiting for you to ask them. You can know that they're waiting for you to ask them to sign up with them or be their agent or whatever. You can know that they don't trust you. You can know that you're wasting your time. You can know that before you spend the hour with them. You can know that in the first 10 minutes of talking to them. I'll just give you one example of this, and then we'll dive into it. I just want to give you an idea. I had a group of, a team of real estate agents that were just up in my office just a couple months ago. And I was talking to them about this, not this class, but just talking to them about body language. And and I was talking about how your hands, what we know is that our hands are, why we shake hands is because the right hand is the hand that you hold your weapon. That's what we know. And so I'm extending my hand out like this because I'm not holding the weapon. Now you know it's safe, right? If you keep your hands in your pocket, the person thinks you're concealing something and something's wrong and it feels unsafe. It just does, right? As I'm explaining this agent goes, oh my gosh. I had 2 buyers that wanted to see a house this weekend. And I had these weird experiences, and now I understand them. And here's what he said. It was cold that morning, and so I forgot to bring my coat. And when I came outside to meet with them, I got there ahead of time, and I didn't have my coat. I wanted to be out of my car when they showed up. And I'm standing with my hands in my pocket like this, and they showed up, and they said something, and then they just walked away and got back in the car and said, I don't want to talk to you, got back in the car and drove away. Happened twice. He goes, that's never happened before. In the 6 years I've been doing this, I've never had that happen before. Because why did it happen? Your hands were wrong. And they have this immediate sense that something's wrong. It's unsafe. Your hands are in your pocket for a reason. I don't know what it is, but I don't feel good about it. And I'm just going to do what feels good. Make sense? Totally reason. Totally why. Because he said, they liked me over the phone, everything was great, everything seemed awesome, and there was no reason why they just kind of turned pale and because unless I was ugly or, I thought that was scary. He was like, I was dressed in slacks, because I was dressed super nice, so there was no reason why they wouldn't be. Make sense? So, if you've ever had this feeling where you've walked up and you're engaging with someone and you said, he seemed like a nice person, or she seemed like a nice person, but something just felt weird. I can't explain it. Here's why. They were conveying verbally what you wanted to hear. The 7%. Their tone wasn't really in alignment for what they were saying. And their body wasn't congruent with their words. And it felt weird. And you felt unsafe. Creepy or whatever it was, you're like, I gotta go. Like this, I don't want to, I don't want to, whatever. I don't trust the person. Because it's manifested. You're picking it up. You don't know it, but subconsciously you already understand this. So the power of this class is that to create an awareness of certain things, and then you can be able to navigate situations. Difficult situations, you can navigate everyday situations at a level that you haven't done before. Make sense? So, what you have to understand is that in our brain we have a limbic system. And what that does is it helps us to react reflexively to our environment, right, without thinking. It's our emotional center of our brain. It's our fight, flight, or freeze responses. And in any environment, it's this system that activates the sympathetic system that engages, or parasympathetic system that engages our the secretion of like our adrenaline to get us going. And our limbic system, it's very difficult to override it. That's why what we think and what we feel is always being manifested, because it just does it instinctively. So it would be like your ability to really control your heart rate. Like if I were to say lower your heart rate, you'd have to really stop, focus. But you really couldn't lower it even to where you wanted to, even if you wanted to, because it's just so natural. It's just happening on its own. So our limbic system is designed to protect us. So it's happening automatically. And it's why that the ideas and the thoughts that we're holding in our mind are an intention. It's why your intention is so important, because whatever their real intention is of an engagement with something, your limbic system is going to respond with that belief or intention. So it's why you can walk in, say you're not nervous, but you really are, and you're trying to get yourself not to be nervous. It's hard to override this. It just makes sense. So it's, again, I'm going back to, it's why when you say the guy said everything right or she said everything right, but it just felt weird or awkward because he can say it all he wants, but this is hard to override. It's what manifests.
What you were saying, it's designed to protect us, but it seems like in a lot of instances, it acts so strongly that it doesn't protect us, it harms us in a sense. Like that agent who said, what the heck happened? All he had was his hands in his pocket. He ran.
No, it protected the people because they don't know the intention. Yet it protected them in that they can't tell the difference, right? Like, can you tell the difference between the lion that's tame that doesn't bite and the lion that bites? No, you're going to run either way. Me, I can't tell the difference between the Rottweiler that's nice and friendly, wagging his tail because he wants to lick my hand or bite my hand off. I can't tell the difference. I'm running, right? So it's designed to protect you. So you just see it, you understand it, and you just say, you shouldn't be here unless there's something overwhelmingly that tells you to stay. You shouldn't. Right? So it's protecting the prey, not the potential predator. Does that make sense? It's protecting the weaker of the situation. But it does harm you. I get what you're saying. It can harm you. And that's why it's important to understand this, otherwise it will be abused. You can be doing things unknowingly that's creating ideas and beliefs in other people's minds just because of what you're doing yourself. That makes sense? So it's a good observation. So the first thing I want you to realize is that because of this limbic system and because it tells us when to go into fight or flight mode, people instinctively have what are called pacifying behaviors. And it's so important to recognize this because what pacifying behaviors indicate is a feeling of insecurity, unsafety, and they need more information or more something. And so here's what a pacifying behavior can look like if you're with a client. You're talking to them, and they're listening, they're going, okay, and then they start doing this, and they start rubbing their leg. Like, what do you do if your child is upset? You're like, it's okay. And they rub their leg. Or it's okay, honey, when you're doing this. So if someone's rubbing their leg while they're talking to you, they're nervous, they're still uncomfortable with what you're saying, and they're trying to pacify themselves. Makes sense? So just knowing that as you're talking with someone, and you think they're engaged with you, they're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Something about what you're talking about, the transaction, the situation, something is stressing them, and they're trying to pacify themselves. Have you ever noticed someone to do this?
I do it all the time. Don't thank me. I didn't go. I'm very excited.
But this is what's happening, right? This is a form of pacification, right? So, again, a gentle massage, a rubbing, a stroking of the face, playing with hairs, or their hair, something. So you go like this, oh, that makes, what if they're doing this? Like, okay. It's not just that their neck hurts. You know, it could be. But it would be very important at this point, when you see them do that you would say something like, I want to pause for a second in our conversation about the selling of the house. What is it that stresses you the most when you go to sell? And now they're like, wait, what? Because you're talking about the loan process or something else. They're like, how did you go to pause to tell me that I'm stressed? Because if they weren't doing it 2 minutes ago when you were talking about how they're going to receive the money because they're excited about it. Now they're talking about, or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, they weren't doing it before, you can know they're okay with that, they're not okay with this part of the transaction. What is it about the loan process that upsets you? And then what happens is Who's ever had a buyer that was going through a situation that would impact their financial ability to secure a loan for a home and didn't tell you and found out later, like kind of late in the transaction, you're like, why didn't you tell me? Who's had that experience? I promise they have given you a physical manifestation of it, and you just didn't see it. They were afraid to tell you. They didn't want to disappoint you. You've already put all of this work into it and thought, I don't want to tell them now. I'll just let her find out. Right? What we talk about in having difficult conversations is when safety leaves a dialogue, when safety leaves, people go silent or violent. And your client went silent and they showed you. And then you just got to talk about my text. You didn't see it. Makes sense? Notice this. Have you ever had a kid, your own child, when you caught them doing something wrong? Or maybe not even in the act, but you were confronted them. Think about it. Like, what did they do? Oftentimes they will touch themselves in a pacifying way somehow. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This, I'm so sorry. This is what they want you to do. That's why they do it. See it? So, you're smiling. How come you're smiling? Who's calling you out?
No.
Did you experience it? No. Okay. So, like I said, so at this point, it's super important to ask a question to gain understanding of what is happening or what they're thinking about in that moment. Makes sense. So that's the importance of pacifying behaviors. I'm supposed to keep this book in my hand. So if you think about this, actually I'm going to back this up. So I was going to ask this question before, but think of this. What do you think is the most honest part of your body? What is the one part of your body that conveys that you cannot lie to? That your face. What is it? Heart? What kind of talk about physical body you can see? Now I can see what physical body can I see?
Your legs and feet.
Yeah, you saw it.
Yeah.
Everybody will say eyes, mouth, legs, and feet. So now let's think about this. Why is it legs and feet? Before I go here, I'm going to tell you, why is it legs and feet? Why would it be? Right. Your feet take, if your limbic system, if you can't override it and it's natural, and it's what puts you in the fight or flight mode, what part of your body is most engaged in fight or flight? Legs. Legs are the most honest. They tell exactly what the person is thinking and feeling in a moment. And we'll go to this. So, let me give you some feet convey happiness. Right? If you saw a picture of me and I was jumping in the air like this, and I was jumping, what would you think the emotion is that I'm experiencing in that moment if I'm jumping? Right. What's the emotion? Excitement. Excitement. Right. Why? Because my feet are off the ground. Because what that conveys to me mentally is, we have an expression for it. I feel like I'm on cloud nine. I feel like I'm not even on there. Like when I walked home, I felt like I was on cloud all the way after that. Or after that, I was on cloud nine all the way. We believe, our brain believes that when we're excited, happy, that our feet show it. And the distance of our feet from the earth, from the ground that we're on, determines the level of our happiness. It can be manifested. Watch. I'll just show you. This is for women. If a woman, if you're a woman, or if you're a woman and a woman is sitting like this, cross-legged, and she's doing this, tell me, what is she thinking? What is she feeling if she's doing this? Bouncing her leg, her foot. Safe. Are you happy? Happy. This is happy.
Some people are just a habit.
Right. So here's the thing. True. So what's important in reading body language is understanding of getting a baseline of the person. If the person crosses their legs and they're sitting like this, and they're just talking, and all of a sudden you're starting to talk about something, you'll watch this. You can test it. If I'm talking to someone, if I was talking to a lady and she was like this and sitting like this, I would ask her a question about her kids, and then she would be doing this. I'm like, and then we'd stop talking about the kids, we'd go back to work, and she would be like, and then say, tell me about your last vacation. Oh my gosh, the last vacation, you know? I'm telling you, you think I'm crazy and then doing this now? It happens. You just gotta watch it. You don't understand. You may not be aware of it, but it happens. You can ask the questions and feet tell you exactly what you really feel about the topic of business. So I watched a lady, and I thought this was crazy, but I watched a lady that was getting interviewed about her religious beliefs. Right? And the higher your toe, so see this, like my foot is like this, the higher the toe points, when the toe is pointing more up, it's pointing towards God. It's pointing to her belief of deity. And so I was watching this lady being interviewed about her life, and then the moment she started talking about God, literally her foot like this. And I paused it, and I'm like to my wife, I'm like, look, her foot went up the second she talked about God. Watch, back up. And she's going, oh yeah, when I wrote this book, and blah, blah, blah. And I believe that God told me, and her foot went up. It's crazy. So, that shows it. If, wiggling, bouncing, the direction of the feet. So if someone, when you go to sit with someone, if I was meeting with a client, I was having an important meeting with someone, I would want to sit in a position where I can see their feet. Because where their feet point is important for me in the conversation. Okay? A couple years ago, an agent, this agent does a ton of business, was losing his team manager, transaction coordinator. This agent does a ton of business. And when this team manager was leaving, you know, I was talking about this, and she was just leaving, but everyone said, oh my gosh, he is going to be so sad when she's gone, because this is going to be so devastating for the team. This was happening. So, just so happened, in the interim of this, I was meeting with that team. And we're sitting at our conference room table, and I thought, I'm going to sit in the position so I can see. I'm going to sit at the head of the table so I can see the feet of the team members as much as I can. So here's how I sat. So the owner of the team sat here. Let's just say his name is Dave. Dave sat here. The team manager, let's say her name is Sarah. Sarah sat here so I can see her. So at this moment, Dave is sitting across, and let's say you're Sarah. Dave is sitting from Sarah like this, and his feet is pointed towards her. Okay? Every time Sarah spoke and was talking about things, he did this. Subconsciously, I'm watching him. And in my mind, I'm like, he doesn't really care that Sarah's leaving the team. I can see it. And then when he spoke, he would go, put it back. When he's talking to me. Sarah would talk. he would even swivel his chair just a little bit like this, so he'd do this. When he would talk to me, he would swivel the chair back and his feet like this and talk. Because watch, what does this mean? I'm congruent with what I'm saying. As she's talking, she's actually leading our team because I don't know, I hear that she's on our team. Okay? Now I'm telling you, nobody thought that this was the case. So the next day I see the agent and I just said, hey, can I talk to you for a second? You can go to lunch with me. I got 2 questions to ask you. I just want to know. 'Cause in my mind, I'm like, I know this, but nobody believes me. And I sat down with the agent and said, you're okay with saying legal problem 10 years. Why do you say that? I'm like, I just want to know. Everybody thinks that you're not okay with it, but you are okay with it. Totally. She's great, but I am really okay with something. We didn't really meet eye to eye up to the news. And I said, oh, was it this and this? And he said, how would you possibly know that? I'm like, because every time she said it, the feet turned away. And he goes, are you freaking kidding me? That's how you do that? I'm like, no, I just said, well, I just do it. That is how telling this is. Make sense? So you can watch, if you're talking to a client and you're in a listing presentation or whatever, and you're talking to them, and if they have the ability, if you're talking to them, now, they could cross their legs and do this, just because that's just how they sit, which is fine. So I wouldn't read into it until you would know that's not how they normally sit. Or if they're talking to you like this and then they just kind of do this on the couch, they're trying to get away from you. They're not comfortable with it. The feet aren't pointed towards you. They don't agree with what you're saying. And it's in that moment you can say, now, up to this point in our conversation, is there anything you haven't really agreed with? You haven't really liked, or that you'd like to see done differently? Yeah, I'll tell you what I don't like. I'll tell you what I think we should do instead. Makes sense? Totally great. It's so compelling. When I learned all this, I remember thinking, man, I don't even know how I navigate stuff without this. This is so important to just see it and to be aware of it. And there's so much to know. The point of today is not to overwhelm you with it. It's just, if you were just to take away 2 things and just start looking for it, it will dramatically change conversations. You'll start to see it. And then you'll say, okay, I got the feet down, and I'm going to go to something else. I'm just going to watch for the feet. And then subconsciously, you just start doing it. Makes sense? So, cross-legged, so let's go to this, conveying our safety. If I'm sitting next to you, let's say if I sit down next to somebody and I do this, and I can either cross my legs like this or like this. Now again, all of this is baseline. There's a baseline to it. But if I cross my legs like this, it means I'm really comfortable with the person next to me. Right? And the closeness, I can tell you, so here's how you can notice this. If I cross my leg and I just do it, but then I kind of move it away, I'm not really comfortable with the person. This is just how I sit comfortably. Because I crossed it, and now I realize it's pretty close, and now I'm going to move away a little bit. So then I kind of turn my, like this. I'm not really comfortable with her, but this is just how I sit when I'm comfortable. That makes sense? So Jan taught us this thing that was pretty funny. She says, she goes, it's hard for me to go out to dinner with my husband and not look at, on a Friday night, and not look at all the women are crossing their legs. You know, and she says, she goes, if a woman crosses her leg and she's next to a guy, she really likes it. She goes, if she's bouncing her leg, her foot, she really likes it. She goes, if she's dangling the shoe, watch out. Like, you should be scared because she's dangling the shoe. And she goes, that means, and she goes, it's unwitting. It's not even, she goes, it's not even close. I can call it every time. But you laugh because if you're a woman, you know what that means. It's like, you know you do. That's what you're feeling. So what's important too is that if you're sitting next to someone So if you were sitting next to a buyer or you're sitting next to someone, because you got to understand, not only is this good for you to read, but it's good for you to do. Because if you do it, whether or not they understand this, they feel it, right? So if I was sitting next to somebody and I wanted them to feel that I am comfortable with them, I would intentionally cross my leg and get close to them so they know I'm comfortable. Make sense? I would intentionally point my feet in their direction as opposed to, even if something I would sit comfortably doing something else, if I'm trying to convey comfort and safety and that I want them to feel that, I would do that to them. Makes sense? So one day, this is, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, an agent came up to our office and he had not, I think he was closing with us because I think he had to or something, I can't remember. But he wasn't really our client at the time. And as he was talking to me, and he was a big guy, fit, like pretty strong and stuff. And as he was talking to me, this is how he was talking to me. We were facing each other, and his legs were like this. His feet was like his feet were like this. And he's telling me who he is, what kind of business he does, why he's in the business, and all this stuff. Right? So if his legs are far apart and he's doing this, what do you think he's thinking or feeling inside?
Comfortable. Comfortable.
Okay.
Aggressive. Aggressive. More of a fight.
That's a confrontation.
Yeah. He's like, I'm telling you who I am, and this is what I am. And you can't move me. I have my title company. I don't even want to be here. This is not my choice. I'm standing like this. This is how it's done. As we were talking, I'm watching his feet. Anyway, as we're talking, I'm watching his feet, and this is what happened. He does this. Closer. So now I know what we've been talking about is totally aligned with it. Then he does this. Shifts, and he's on one leg, like this. Now, if he was afraid of me, would he be doing this? Then he does this. Puts his foot like this. Now he's on one foot. This means he's totally in alignment with everything I'm saying. So I just keep on talking what I'm saying. Not like I'm trying to solve. Now I realize my approach needs to be about this. This is what he wants to talk about. Yeah, I want to talk about this. So now I'm talking about what he wants to talk about. Then he literally does this. He leans against the reception desk. So now what I know is if he's like this and he's leaning, he's totally off balance, I can literally push him over like this. Right? It means he wants to do business with me. This is after like 25 minutes of talking to him. When he's doing this and he leans like this, and I'm talking to him, and then I just ask him, hey, why don't you send us all the business with me? He goes, I don't know that. And 20 minutes ago, he was saying, you can't make it closer. Makes sense? If I see this, I know when to ask the question. Or if I ask the question and he was like this and he looked like this, let me tell you, then I know we're not aligned on this. He's not understanding what I'm saying. It's something else because he went back to fight or flight. Makes sense? Same things happen in the chair. The chair looks like this. If I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you talk to me about you're going to help me sell my house, I'm like, okay, this is great. And I'm talking like this and my feet are close together. I'm comfortable. I'm like, okay. And then you say something like, and I'm going to, whatever. You say something I don't like. Maybe you talk about your commission or whatever. And then I do this. Watch, they'll do it. They'll go, wait a second. They get themselves wider. Animals do this, right? The hair on the animal goes up. They do this because they're like, now I have to defend this. And you'll see it. Here's what will happen. This is what it looks like. You're sitting there, you're talking about something, they'll go. And then the legs are further apart, and they're like, okay, here's what, no. And this is how you're talking. This is where we're talking. You see that? So, but that's what I'm saying. They'll always, almost every time, they'll try to pacify themselves before they do it because they're like, I felt very safe, and now I have to come out and be this, come out like a lion because I feel like I have to defend this. Here it goes. And in this moment, if they're doing this, you can say, hey, I want to pause right now and just ask you, because maybe so far that you are not like, oh, I don't like that. Yeah, can we talk about makes sense? So any questions on this? Like what?
You might have covered it, but under the happiness one, what is the freezing? Is that what kind of what you're saying they have a stance? Freezing on the bottom?
Yeah.
Distant, freezing?
Yeah, so what I said is happiness can be like, they'll freeze it in a position of, in one of these positions,
Oh,
right?
okay.
They'll freeze, like it'll just remain,
Got it. Okay.
yeah, in that direction or that distance, like it just, because they're like, this is my, I mean, you say this, right? I'm just in my happy space. Right. It's a good question. Go ahead.
You said these really don't allow them, you can't change them? You don't change your body's desire to do these things.
No, I'm just saying. Normally, people aren't. They're not conscious enough to stop. You can, right? Like, if I'm because here's what happens, right? If I'm scared and I'm going into a conversation that I'm nervous about, I tell myself, keep your feet wide apart. Because this tells my brain I'm not scared. I got this. You know what I mean? Or I'll say, no, keep your legs crossed and act calm because you are calm. You can get through this. Just depending on the situation I'm going into, right? Like, does that make sense? Like, I have to override each one. So just depending on the situation, I might say, I'm really scared. I don't want to go to a lesser part of me and to acquiesce what I believe in. Keep your feet far apart. Or I could say, I'm really scared. I don't want to convey that scared or that anxiousness in this conversation. Cross your legs, bounce your leg, so you feel happy. So I'm keeping myself happy in the moment, and that's how I'm soothing myself through the conversation. Does that make sense? Right? Tony Robbins says it, and what's her name? I can't remember her name. She talked about power poses, right? If you hold a power pose like this for 2 minutes, it affects your confidence the rest of the day. Because what this pose is telling your body is you're confident, you're victorious, you can do it. I'm holding my body like this. Like what happens when a guy wins a race, somebody wins a race, what do they do? You do this. We're the champions, and we're doing this because we're saying I'm powerful, I'm victorious, I can do anything. So when you have a bad day, or you start your day and you do something like this, and you're just doing this, you're conveying that message to you. Makes sense? Like they've done studies where they've tested people's body chemistry after doing this for 2 minutes. It's as if they won the interview. It's as if they won the game. And they haven't even won it. They're just doing it. Right? It can be overwhelming. And that's what I'm saying. That sometimes in a conversation, you're going to be saying, I just got to keep my legs crossed or whatever, be comfortable, do this, don't go in this mode. If I'm feeling this, and I'm thinking this, and then I put my legs like this, it just spirals that fight or flight response. Makes sense? So handshakes communicate so much. And when do we shake someone's hands typically when we're meeting? 15 minutes after meeting them, or within the first 30 seconds? First 10 seconds, really, right? And so what is so important is that this interaction happens at its highest level. And when I took this class from Jan, we actually practiced for like 10 minutes shaking people's And I thought, I know how to shake someone's hand. But then as I went around shaking people's hands, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not conveying, like, I'm shaking their hand. What I realized is how I was doing it was, I'm shaking their hand, just saying that I'm here and I'm welcoming them. I'm not shaking their hand, conveying confidence that I'm here to protect them. Does that make sense? So, she talks about the early grab, how this is so horrific. Here, let me back up. In all of this, the greatest thing that I learned in all of this was this. If the handshake didn't feel good to you, and how many of you have ever shaken someone's hand and it didn't feel good? What did you do? Did you just move on? That's what you don't do. So now, listen to the message that this conveys. If I shake your hand and it didn't feel good for me, is it possible it felt good for somebody else? No, it's not impossible. Now, I know this subconsciously. You just shook my hand, it felt uncomfortable. You know it felt uncomfortable, and you didn't do anything about it. I don't want to do business with you because you don't care about me. So here's what it looks like. Let me shake your hand. If I shake your hand and I do it
Oh, I
wrong,
hate those.
and I do it wrong, I did the early grab, I'm like, oh, then I would say, I'm so sorry, I did that wrong. Can we do that again? Thank you. And I just do it again. But I never you don't let that go in a bad way. You say, oh my gosh, you just say, that didn't feel good to me. Did it feel, I can't feel, it couldn't have felt good to you. Let's do that again. And then you can either just do it again or two-handed just say, there we go. And what does this convey? If I do this, and what does this convey?
Oh, wow.
I wanted to make sure that this got done right and that you felt good about it. Does that make sense? So just that one thing will convey what will happen is you can have a client that you're going through a transaction and they always perceive what's happening in the transaction as something's wrong or you're doing it like there's a mistrust belief, right? Have you ever had this in a transaction with somebody? Why do they keep on mistrusting me? What is happening? What did I ever do? Could have been just about natural. And that set the tone for the rest of the transaction. So, makes sense? So, it's interesting. Who has ever had a handshake where someone shakes their hand and then does this and turns it? Anybody ever have that where they kind of turn just a little bit? Or they put it like this? What do you think that conveys? Control. Yeah, totally. Or if someone shakes your hand, and then they do this. It just says, I acknowledge that I am inferior to you. That's what. Anybody shake their hand, someone's hand, and then it hurt because they shook it so hard, they squeezed it hard?
Yes.
It's the same thing as this. And personally, I'm just saying personally, I wouldn't do business with someone. I'd say that's not big, it's all I need to know because that is the intention. We will do it how we need to do it. That's it. I'm not going to or at least, even if it's a client, you want to you're like, well, I want something else. Right? But at least now you know. But what I wouldn't do, I wouldn't allow that handshake to remain like this. If you shook my hand and you did this, I would put my hand like this and I would say, I'm really nice to meet you. To say that I'm not trying, and I wouldn't go like this, or I'm even grab me, I got it. We're not going to do this. And that conveys the whole message of, I'm not going to be taken advantage of. I'm not going to just sit here and, cow down to whatever you want. We're going to get a beat and rock in this regard.
and I was just paying attention, and actually, I could feel a chemical change when you did that. I mean, the vibrational, it changed. It was like, oh wow.
It really is. And that's why this is like going back to, I'm glad you just said that, because that's what happens. The language changes how I feel, and what I make, then what I get you to do changes how you feel. If I can do this for 2 minutes and it changes the biochemistry of the chemistry of my body for a day, if I can do this for 2 minutes and it literally changes it, then what does this do? Shaking the hand. It sends a chemical impulse or release, literally, and it changes that person's dynamic and how they feel about it.
So say something about a person who has never put their other hand on the shape.
Yeah, maybe something. No, but that's
I've shaken thousands and thousands of hands, and I've never, ever, ever put my other hand on the shape.
I rarely do this.
Do you think people that are shaking your hand are intentionally knowing what they're doing, or is it they just do it because
Customary.
yeah, they're powerful,
And the person that shakes your hand and does it hard, even if it's not like how, but it's just hard, it means that they're not aware of how you feel and aren't conscious of it.
So taking it one step.
Does that make sense? Like if let's say I shook your hand and I felt like I was a little hard, I'm like, I'm sorry, was that hard? I'm sorry, can I do that again? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Like, if I'm not aware of it, I'm not willing to correct it in the moment, I'm not going to be aware of anything moving forward in the relationship.
What this brings me to is in the morning when we slap hands. I think it's the same kind of thing.
Oh, 100%.
So that's it's like a handshake almost.
I generally will adjust pressure based on what other people do with me. If they're going to be really, really limp, then I'm like, okay, I don't want to press your hand, so I just kind of soft.
Yeah. Perfect. That's the matching and mirroring, right? When I know that you're going to mirror me, then I know that this, when I deal with you, it's going to go at the pace that I feel comfortable with. That's important.
What about someone who doesn't like to shake hands? It's just this, it's a personal reason.
That's why they invented the fist bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, so here's what I'm saying is that you can't read into everything because the baseline just might be, I don't like shaking hands. Whatever, my dad would shake my hand or something and would squeeze it hard, I hate it. It's nothing to do with you, they just don't want to do it. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just, that's the baseline. Does that make sense? So,
Yes. This is just working on things.
Right. right. So it's like for me, if someone didn't shake hands with me, some people they don't want to shake hands, but they will hug you. They're fine with that. Or if they didn't want to shake hands, we met, we were talking, and we didn't want to shake hands. Depending on how the conversation goes, I might try to touch you like on your arm before I leave or something. Say, it's so good to see you, or so good to meet you, and then just notice that response and say, you are willing to still engage me and understand that I don't want to do that, but I know that you care about me enough that you will still have some type of touch. But if you notice, if you watch the presidential debate with Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, when they met, they shook hands at the beginning of the debate. So here's what happens. If I shake hands and then I touch you, here's what you saw. Here, what? Stand up. I'm sorry. Can I borrow you?
Yes.
So, if they shook hands and then wherever I touch you, touch me. So They shook hands and they did this, and it means control. Now, whoever's holding higher up on the arm, that's who has the most control. So if you watch, if you watch it, this is what they did. They shook hands and went like this. They embraced like this, then they go like this, and then they went like this, and they were at each other's shoulders like this, going,
Really?
"Yeah, watch it." You don't notice it, but when you go back and watch it, they literally went like this because
One. Yeah.
it was a tie. It was like they had to like, well, Obama, yeah. But that's what they did. If you go back and watch it, that's exactly what they did. And what this was saying was, I'm the more dominant one. Because what they don't want to do is this. Like, they were going to arm wrestle. They were just doing this. And you watch it, it's just all body. Makes sense?
The same thing that people who don't really do when you shake their hand. You know, like they won't think I make any eye contact with them.
Yeah. What do you think it means?
I'm very nervous.
How do you feel when they do it? What else do you feel?
I don't know, like,
That's all it is. That's all opposite.
I always thought that kind of equated to lack of self-confidence.
They're just nervous. They're insecure in the moment. So they're like, I don't want to. Because oftentimes, here's what happens. You'll shake their hand in a very confident way because you're trying to do this. And then they sense, oh my gosh, I'm not like that. I can't do this. I'm so, like, they're just angry. It has nothing to do with you. It's everything how they feel about themselves. Makes sense? So the takeaway on this is, what's the biggest takeaway on this? Handshakes.
match and mirror.
Match and mirror. What else?
It feels uncomfortable.
Always go higher than the arm. Perfect.
If you do it wrong, do it again.
Do it wrong, do it again. That's right. Here's the one thing that you don't want to do. Sometimes someone shakes your hand and then they pull you in. You may ever do this. Come here.
Oh,
What are you doing? You know what I mean? So sometimes it's friendly, right? They want to pull you in like this. But what you don't want to do is to pull them in. What you want to do is just engage them. If you want them closer, because really, watch. If I'm shaking your hand, I'm like this. This means I'm doing this out of obligation, and I'm trying to keep my distance. I can still kick you. You know, I'm doing this, and I got to do this, right? So the idea is, if they extend it out like this, if they straight arm you, it's because they're afraid. And so in that moment, they're anxious or whatever. So in that moment, you don't want to you don't want to mirror them in that. But in that moment, you'd want to just make sure you're a little bit of a closer distance of what they are, just knowing that you're one step closer. Does that make sense? Then allow them, then watch them, and if you shake it appropriately, you will watch them engage. And typically, here's what happens: if you do it right, they'll do that, and then they themselves will step into it because they'll like, this feels good. Same thing. Watch. Where I'm keeping my feet is important. The distance that my feet are to you is so important. If I'm leaning in, it means I'm still not safe. I barely want to be here. Does that make sense? So it's why we say, if you look under the table, they're playing footsies with each other. Because your feet are the indicator of what you're feeling in the moment, the most honest indicator. That's why you play footsies. Right? That's also why, fun fact, just from talking about feet here, but fun fact, this is what she said. I remember when I told this to George Morris, he was like, that does not happen. That is impossible. But here's what she said. The feet are so important, she says, that guys, if they're in a room or if they're engaging with a woman who they find attractive, guys will pull their socks up. They'll do this. If the woman's attractive. And she says, and she goes, notice, and this is what she challenged us to do, she says, the next wedding reception you go to, Notice where a guy's just sitting and watch when the beautiful lady walks in front of him. Watch what they do. So I did this, and I watched these guys sitting there. All these guys were sitting there, and this beautiful woman walked by, and all the guys were watching her walk by. It was like dominoes. And when I was telling this to George, and George goes, "That is not true. That is not true." and then George goes, and then a couple weeks later, I was talking to him. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I was at a wedding reception. I watched these guys just do this when they walked up and talked to that girl. They all did this." He's like, "I did not know this." And this is what she says. It's where we get the phrase, "She'll knock your socks off." Because we did this. We're like, "I'm not going to make socks off." That's what we say. Make sense? So just, ladies, just notice if the guy's pulling the socks off. That's what it means.
I must be different.
He doesn't wear socks. So here's how to use this in your business, knowing just these things. It's important that just to be aware of what the person is doing, how they're standing in that moment. Just kind of just say, where are their feet, where are they pointed, what's happening, what's going on. Just be aware in the beginning, right? Ask test questions when you're talking to them, right? What do you do when you first meet with a client? You just get right into the business, or what do you do? You don't get right into talking about the transaction and what you're going to do, right? What do? You build rapport, right? And building rapport, you can ask the questions and watch the shift in the body languages. Here's how the first set, or here's how the body language is going to be in the beginning. How does anybody feel when they're meeting a stranger for the first time in their home? How is the average person going to feel? A little nervous. So they're going to be like, okay, yeah, they're going to be sitting something like straight out. They're going to be doing this. So in this moment, it's important that when you start engaging them and talking to them about questions about their life, you ask them questions that you know that undoubtedly they're going to be happy about, right? They have a dog, whatever, they have a pet. How long have you had your puppy? Oh my gosh, I have had this puppy for so long. So now you know, this is they do this. How many children do you have? And now they're going to be like, they're going to do this with their hands. They're going to put their hands together. This is called steepling. They put their hands like this. Oh my gosh, I want to tell you about my kids. Steepling. This means they're talking from their heart. Tell me about your worst experience in real estate. I'm like, and they're gonna go, oh my gosh, I had a deal, and they're gonna be talking like this. And you're gonna go, oh, got it. What's your experience in real estate? Have you ever had a bad experience? Have you ever had a good experience? What are you talking to them about? And now you have this baseline, like, they do, this is what they're doing. What would make you feel the most comfortable in this transaction? Oh, what would make me feel most comfortable? And here's what happens, right? When we feel comfortable and safe, what do? We go small. That's why we say, I just, my wife would say, I just want to cuddle, right? What is cuddle? It's getting small and close. So it's what people do. They get small and close. I can want to so you're seeing this. Then, as you go through your presentation, as you're talking to them, you're going to watch and you're going to see these things manifested by them. You're going to talk about something and you're going to be scared about it. So, how long is my house going to be on the market? Do you think? This is a big concern. Tell me why this is such a big concern. How long? I know you want to say answer. Tell me, is there something I'm missing in this transaction? I know you do want to sell. You haven't really talked. Is there a timeline you're really looking for? Yeah. This is a way to help you understand where to pause, where to ask more questions, and find out. That makes sense. So this is how it works. This is how it helps you in your business, how it helps you go through asking questions in some sort of sense. So let me any questions up to this point? So we've gone an hour. What I want to do is let's take just a 5-minute break, 5-10 minute break. Let's say 10 minutes. So or let's make it 10 after. So it gives you like 7-8 minutes. Let's just reconvene. And we'll kind of go to the next section.
Where's the sign-up sheet?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, where
That's
it got
not the
passed
one that-
around.
we do need the one where we put our license.
Yeah, it's on the clipboard. Who has it?
Right, you wanna leave this thing. How was the call yesterday? It was funny. It was funny. You learned one? Oh, really?
Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, too much.
I didn't.
He like came out like they did like like how?
Oh, really?
The way to get it is to order online.
Order it online, right?
fundraisers, right? Like that sound.
The reason I asked is
No, I can give another.
are you serious?
Yeah, that's serious.
Yeah. Let me buy it.
I got it free. Thank you, girl.
It was nice to see your smiling face when I walked in. I know them. Where did you? Oh, here it is.
And you were a believer after that. That's definitely good. Make it a fun contract.
Well, that might be a little
The nuances of that.
Yeah, I just have to look at it. Did I see the sauce? That's there. She's got it down. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You just do it.
I can do this one. Do this one.
I'm sorry. I didn't know his name was when I
Get them on there. Is there a definitive on this because right?
Not that it would have mattered, it's pretty easy.
Oh, she's on the
Some days when we don't have time for them. So are you an agent here? I'm Sam. Now that we've learned about handshakes and gosh, no, I had.
Okay, does everybody have a survey?
So bad, it wanted me to cry like.
Anybody not have one?
I did it. I'm like, it's okay. And I have one Friday, so I think I was having an off day, and I'm like, yeah. I said I wanted to cry.
All right, let's see, 10 after, 11 after, okay. A couple of things I actually want to talk about the hands that I remember. Hands are super important because they will determine, they can convey more overwhelmingly. They can be used more intentionally in conveying a message. So, and I mentioned this, but when hands are close together like this is called steepling, and this means I'm talking from my heart. And you'll see people do it. That's why we say, please, will you do this? I'm not begging. I mean, we're begging, right? It's like, oh, please, please. But I'm doing it because it means I really, really need this to happen. I could just say, please, will you really do this? Please, will you really do this? This means I really need it to happen. Right? Any type of this, if you watch George Maltz, it's really funny to watch him. Not that's funny, but like he's very animated, so his hands tell a lot. So he'll be talking in Summit. When's the next Summit? Just in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
November 18th.
Huh?
I think it's November 18th.
Yeah, so watch this. If George is talking about how he's created Everest, when he's talking about that time, he will do this. Guys, I want to tell you the time that I was losing everything. He'll do this. It means I'm just telling you how I feel right now. I didn't know what I mean. This is not scripted. This is exactly what I'm just feeling. This is what I'm feeling. Right? Watch. If I'm doing this and if I say, I don't really know what to say and I'm touching my face. I don't really know what to say right now. What does this convey more than if I just said, guys, I don't know what to say right now. Guys, I don't know what to say right now. Feel different?
Yeah.
It just feels different. I'm closing up. I'm putting my weapons close to my face so you, like, they can't hurt you. There's nothing in my hand. I don't know what to say. When someone's talking, your hands can convey convey more to a person about the intention, what you're thinking about, what they're saying. And when I would meet with youth, I would interview kids, and I would talk to them, and I'm sitting at a table. So now imagine, here's a kid that I'm talking to. I'm sitting at a desk, and this kid comes in and is talking to me or whatever. I knew that they would be scared because I'm a person of authority. They've walked into a room with me, and they're 15 years old or whatever, and they're nervous because they don't really know me. Right? So how would I convey? How would I show that they can feel safe and be in this moment? Well, think about it. How would I do it? First off, I would have my feet. I would back away from the desk a little bit. I wouldn't. Well, not necessarily, but my feet wouldn't be in a position like this. My feet would be like this. Tucked away safe. I'm not going to kick you. I don't plan on running. And then I would do this. What's going on? How you feeling? And the fact that I'm sitting here like this and my hands are touching my face means I'm not moving. I'm just going to listen. Like if I were to get up from my desk, beat you up, you would have plenty of warnings that has to do this. Like a transformer, like unfolding. So what if I sat like this and my foot tucked like this behind the leg of the chair, like this, and just going, so what's going on today? They feel so safe. Makes sense. So when you touch your face and you're talking to somebody, it tells them you're thinking about what they're saying. It's important to you. You touch your chin and you're like, really? Tell me more about that. It conveys safety, it conveys intention, concern. If you're talking and I do this, really? I'm just like rubbing and I'm doing this. Really, that happened to you? I'm doing this. It can, to you know I'm really processing your situation because I'm doing this. But if I were to sit here and just go, really? Wow, like this is good, but this just is, I don't want there to be any doubt in your mind that I'm not listening, that I'm not aware of, and I'm fully engaged. You see that? So, you're talking to your client, and you ask them a question. You're in a listing appointment, whatever. You ask them a question, and they start talking about it, and they start talking about it, and you go, wow, that really happened. Or, that totally makes sense to me. They know you're listening. You can do it, but I would do this just so there's 100% that you're conveying it overwhelmingly. Make sense?
Movies, they're just really like, maybe it's really, but like they want to show you it's not that it's
No, depending on, so, here's what I said. When you touch your face, it means you're really thinking about it. So if I'm cynical, I'm really thinking about it. I'm like, really? That really happened? Doesn't mean it means I'm conveying what I'm thinking. Right? A cynical person is an honest person, what you say. At least to tell me what they feel, right? So that's why a cynical person will go, I don't know if they'll touch their face. I don't know if I believe that. That doesn't seem right to me. Because they're telling you, I'm really thinking about everything you've said and I processed it, and I don't know if it's true or not. Right? This is great, because now you know they really don't believe it, and now you can ask another clarifying question. Tell me, what is it about that has you concerned? You know, and that now you can engage them if you know the sincerity of the question.
what about when that sometimes I learned it means their words.
It depends. Yeah, again, all of this, I'm saying, like I said, but it's not 100% in that every time they do this, they're bored. Has anybody ever done this because they're kind of overwhelmed by the information? Like, I just want to think about that. Here's what I do. I do this, and I look down, I'm like, wow, well, he just really said a lot about what I And I'm not even listening to what he's saying next, because I'm processing what he just said. Right? But if I go, makes sense. So it's important not to I would never overanalyze it. I would just be aware of it and say, this could mean that this is happening. Makes sense. So yeah, the steepling. Here's a couple other things with the hand, just kind of as a point of interest. Jan says that when a person was being sworn in by the court, you know, they put their hand on the Bible, whatever it is, and they're like, I swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. She says, with about a 90% accuracy, I could tell if that person was going to lie or tell the truth, just by how they swore it. Because here's what she said: if someone does it like this, or like this, that means they're scared as hell, and they're going to tell the truth. Depending on how if this is straight up. If it's leaning back like this, it means I'm going to tell you whatever you want to hear. Or if it was just like this, it's like they're lying. They're going to lie. They're going to lie all through this. So, again, just interesting. It's hard to hide. And then I talked about not putting your hands in your pockets when you're talking to someone, because it means deception, fear, whatever. So if we were to use this, knowing what you know now, I just want to hear what from your understanding and your perception, when you are meeting with someone for the first time, what is it about your body, or what would you do differently in meeting someone for the first time, knowing what you know today? I just want to hear what you say. I would do this. I would make sure I'm doing this differently.
Well, obviously there's certainly things you want to be aware of, but because it's your limbic system, because it's an auto response, I personally believe that the single most important thing you could possibly do is to align your intent. Number one, and the rest of it all is going to snap into place. Because we've all met with somebody that you walked away and went, something just felt hokey. They said all the right words, but the vibrations just didn't, and you don't need to know why. And it's usually I've found out because their intent was not pure.
Right. Perfect. So align your intent. Okay. Anybody else?
I like the way you talk about how when you see these things when you're talking with someone, you see it's catch these little signs of posture of the feet, the hands, or whatever. To say, hey, let's just pause on this for a second and let's talk about what makes you nervous about this, or what makes you upset about this, or whatever. And go and just pause that conversation. And so that's something I wrote down to learn to do is to say, hey, let's step back for a second. Let's talk about this, and get them off of whatever it is making them defensive, and find out what they're really thinking. Because I mean, obviously you want to get to the heart of the matter with this person that you're talking to, and make them feel comfortable with you. And doing that, obviously,
Yeah, perfect. I love that. It's great. Anybody else? I thought I saw somebody else.
I think we were all gonna say what you said.
Yeah.
Maybe this.
Yeah, can you do this before you go in?
Yeah.
For a couple minutes. So yeah, so what I would tell you is that notice the next engagement that you have that means a lot to you, like a listing appointment or a buyer, you're going to meet a buyer for the first time. Just be aware of your body. Just don't overthink it. Just be aware. What I would do is this. I would naturally just watch what I do. Just be aware of it. Don't try to shift it in the moment. Just kind of be aware of it. Because if you're trying to shift it in the moment, you're not going to see where you naturally already go. Where the gaps are, Does that make sense? So step one. Your next appointment or next couple appointments, just be aware of what you're doing. Step two, take the one thing that you caught in that awareness and say, I'm going to really work on this one thing and change it. Because what happens is, just you said, when you can change one thing, if you can just say, I'm going to just notice what my feet do this whole time. I'm not going to worry about my hands if I'm doing this or if I'm doing this or what I'm doing. I'm just going to worry about my feet. If you can get one thing in alignment, other things start changing. Right? Because if I can do this for 2 minutes in the day, and that's going to change the chemistry of my body, if I can just keep my feet in the position of confidence and awareness, that's going to change my it's going to change what I'm going to say. Makes sense? So what happens, let's just mentally walk through this. What happens when where do you first meet a client usually? Where's a common place where you make your first physical introduction to clients? What are the top 2 places you do this? Their house.
or the office.
Or the office. Okay. So when you walk into their house, watch. Here's where we go wrong. If you think I need to be confident and all of this stuff, I need to be confident and show that when I first meet them, blah blah blah. If I walk into your house for the first time and I'm trying to convey confidence and I walk in like, hey, how are you? Like that feels aggressive, like I'm in your house, but I'm trying to keep my body big and wide because I want to be confident. How would they feel in your own home? Someone's trying to do that. You feel scared. It creates this feeling of unsafety. So when you walk in, how should you walk in? Would you walk in timid? Kind of walk in like, oh, you wouldn't do that either, right? So it's a play between the two. And if someone's coming into your office, are they going to be intimidated or not? Yeah, it's unfamiliar. So then how should you greet them? Do you think, and how are you feeling in your own office? Do you feel confident or, right? Do you feel more confident meeting the person in your office or at their home? Where do you feel more confident? Office. So knowing that, what's going to be your natural position? Your natural position in your own office, you're going to be like, oh, you walk up to the front desk, hi, how are you? right? And then what is someone going to think if you walk up to the front desk and you're just that confident and you're walking up? Still unsafe. So you have to be aware of this and saying, what I need to do is greet them, know that I'm going to default if I'm doing it in the office. I'm going to feel more confident than I would normally, so I need to back it off just a bit. Make sense? And be aware of what would make them feel comfortable. Watch. What would make you feel really comfortable if you walked into someone's office that you didn't know and you'd never been there before? What would be the first thing that would make you feel comfortable?
Surroundings.
Surroundings, perfect. If you walked in and this looked like a nice office, I feel pretty comfortable. It seems nice, right? What's the next thing?
A friendly greeting.
Right. Reception. Right. However, the reception greets that person is going to begin this affecting your business. If they greet that person, oh hi. How's that person going to feel? I'm just walking in this big machine. I'm jumping in and it's back up. Reception is good. Oh hi. I'm so glad to see you. You're going to feel that, right? What's the next thing that's really going to convey that when they meet you? What are they looking for? Now imagine this. Let's back up. Well, what's the next thing? The next thing, they're going to meet you. And that interaction with you is going to determine where their safety goes. If they were scared, it went up. They feel good because the reception met them well. And now this is going to determine whether they're going to do business with you. I just shook their hand and it was wrong. Imagine the receptionist didn't greet them well, had them seated, and then you shook their hand and it felt uncomfortable. Where's that deal going right now? You just dug yourself a hole. That's why it's so important to say, okay, what am I going to do? You have to practice. Literally, I would practice. I would ask somebody, have I ever shaken your hand and it didn't feel good? Right? Do you ever want to hug somebody? Not everybody wants to be hugged, right, in that initial interaction. So I wouldn't hug someone because you're a hugger and they're not, just because you are. Right? I remember Jen Morris would say this. She'll say the first time, at first I hated being hugged. I hated it. And I remember Jen Morris hugged me one of the first times I met her. And she's like, you literally stood there like a pole. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, why is this woman hugging me? I felt so like she let go. I'm like, and honestly, in my mind, I thought, I hate being around Jen Morris because she hugs me. Like, don't hug me. And I'd be like, I gotta keep my distance. Like, I like her, I just don't want you to hug me. That's why I do this, right? So that what I'm getting to is that you should have a clear mental image of what that first engagement is going to look like, what you're going to do, what you're going to notice about them. If they shake your hand initially and they're extended and they're reaching out, probably not a hugger. I wouldn't go in, don't go in like on hitch. Don't go in for the, if she doesn't come 90%, don't close the gap. If they've done this, don't do it because they're not going to hug you. Right? They're just going to say, this one's too ugly, whatever. I do not want to do business with you. So that initial interaction should be clear what it's going to look like in your life. How you're going to hold your feet, what you're going to do, how that works. And then it would just become, in the beginning, it's going to feel mechanical because you're aware of it. It's going to feel a little awkward because you're going to notice that your feet are turned away, you know what I mean, or whatever. But it begins to become natural. Any questions?
Do you hug Jen now?
I do. Yeah. She's like, I made you a really good hugger. So anyway, that's funny. But yeah, she always laughs about it. To where she will snort when she's telling the story. That's how hard she's laughing. A couple of things I was going to say about the feet that I think is important. Feet are aligned. I forgot when we were talking about this. If I'm talking to somebody and my feet are facing towards that person, two people are talking more like this, this is happening, and then you're the person approaching it, and their feet are like this, don't interrupt the conversation. They don't want to talk to you. And you've noticed someone will do this, they're talking, and you come in, their feet will stay planted right where they're at, and they'll do this. Now, you may not have been physically aware of it, but you felt the awkwardness. You're like, did I interrupt something? Because what they do is this. What do you want? Talk. Right. How can you know if you can come into that conversation? If it's like this. It's open. Literally, this means we're having an open conversation. Talking to somebody, anybody can join me. It's open. If someone's having a conversation, go ahead.
I was just gonna touch on that. So, often, like during yoga, you want to set up the foundation, so you set up your feet, because then your hips will automatically go into line with that, and then as a result, your shoulders as well. So, energetically, it allows welcoming, like you said, or within whatever it is your conversation you're having. So, it just starts out at the root.
Yeah. If, again, when we talked about this, I just forgot to mention that. So if it's open like this, if you're talking to someone and the foot is like this, they want to go. They're done. They're waiting. As soon as he's done, like I'm not here, and their foot is caught back like this. I just remember one day, this was like a long time ago, I was watching John Saya, and he was talking to someone, and just here's what I was there at the conversation talking to this agent. This is like 6 years ago, but he was talking to the agent, and he was like this. I'm sorry. The agent said, "Hey John, can I ask you a question?" And he goes, "Yeah. What do you got?" And they were talking to him, and now the conversation went really deep, and I can tell he's very engaged in the conversation. But now his mind says, I got to be at two places at once. I need to go here. And he was standing at the reception on the second floor. And he's like, I need to go here. Because I had just finished talking to him in the hallway. And he's like, I need to go do this. And now I know you need me right now. And now I'm torn. And he's standing like this. And I'm watching him do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But I know he's sincere in talking to the agent. He's like, oh. So what you want to do is, and he's saying this, right? And I walked up behind John, and put my hand on his shoulder, and I said, "Are you going to help me put your feet together?" And he goes, and he's talking, he just went like this, because then he realized like he was doing this, and I could tell, honestly. So here's what happens: it engages your brain, because your brain's like, I got to go two places, and he's not engaging him as fully as he should. And if there's a solution to it, he's going to come up with it when he's aligned with the person. And that is his focus. Makes sense? And I asked John afterwards, I said, how did that go? And he goes, dude, that changed them. Like, thank you for telling me that. I was just so like, I got to do this. He goes, that just fully engaged me. I got in and was able to handle the situation with more mental power and control.
What's interesting is from the person's perspective that John is speaking with, they may not understand, but they can feel that we're truly want our clients, really anyone, family, friends, to know that we care about them. It's important. It's easier said than done because I have it's probably being present, but just being aware that they're picking up those cues also, even though we're making
When you're at home,
Could be a couple, yeah. What do you think?
What's the question?
She says if someone's bouncing, if they're talking and someone's bouncing your leg, what does that mean? Could be. So how would you know?
Because when I am, I do the same. So
Right. So, but how would you verify whether he's nervous or whether that's just happening?
yeah, this is very honest because he sounds very confident. luckily I'm on her messages.
Yeah.
I really figured it out with
Right. So I'm going to tell you this. I do this. Again, I would pause and just say, is there anything about what we're talking about that makes you anxious or nervous about what we're doing? And they say no. You say, well, this is using empathy with body language. I would say this, well, can I tell you something? When I'm nervous, I bounce my leg. I'm noticing you bouncing my leg. That's why I'm asking. I just want to make sure. Is there anything that we're talking about that we're talking about? How would anybody feel if you really asked them that question? Are they going to think Andy's going to feel offended? What are they going to feel? You really want to make them feel safe. You're like, I want to know. I'm noticing that. Like, if someone says, hey, I noticed you got your hair done, you're like, yes, I did. Don't you? You know what I mean? Like, you're happy that someone notices. Or, I noticed you're wearing a new suit. Yes, I am. How do you do this? You know, you want, when you notice their body and what they're doing, and you say, I do the same thing when I'm upset, or when I do that too, or I do that.
I would deny it. Most people deny it.
I think it depends on, no, I think it depends on the sincerity of the question. When they feel that you really want to know and you've made them safe, they'll tell you. And if they deny it, it could be true. That's just a nervous habit. Okay, then you're just watching for something else. Okay, great, that's what they do. I have a friend who does this no matter what. He's sitting, he could be sitting in church and just bouncing his leg. I'm always like, dude, where are we going? You know, like, what are you doing? Oh, sorry. Just happened. Like, sorry. It had nothing to do with anything. He just does it. Makes sense? So, but it could be. They do. People, sometimes they don't tell you exactly what they're feeling. However, the fact that you're stopping and asking in a sincere way and telling them what you've noticed and why you're asking the question, it shows that you really care. And they may be waiting for you to do that 2 times before they make up their mind, or 2 or 3 times before they make their decision on who it is, or if they do like you, they have that confidence. Make sense? Any other questions? Okay, so here's a couple of fun facts. About body language. One, if with your left hand, that was just my hesitation. So if with your left hand, if I ask you a question, and your left hand comes up and touches your face like this, you're lying. Chances are you're lying. Jan Hargrove, Bill Clinton, did you have sex with Monica Lewinsky? I did not have sex with that woman. That's just this. She's like, he's lying. We knew it. We were just trying to get him. We were trying to get him to another one. He can say all they want. Lying. Right? If a person's lying, again, this is always isn't 100%, but you just gotta watch it. But you can ask the person, do you feel comfortable in this transaction so far? Or yes, I do. It's fine. Really? And now, what I would do is I would think, what has been the most uncomfortable part for me in this transaction? Really? Because I thought when we discussed about the home inspection, that didn't go as well as I wanted it to. What do you think? Yeah, it really didn't. I was so disappointed. I got
And so what was the tell that makes you dig further?
I touched my face with my left hand. I answered the question and I do
That's
this.
why you have to look the right hand.
Because the left hand controls the right part of the brain, the right hand of the brain is logic. And I can't lie. Now, if I'm lying, these people know, see, you know this subconsciously, but when they do this. If you ask me a question that I'm going to lie about, subconsciously, I will do this. I'm holding on to something with my left hand. I don't want to do it. Now, I don't know this to articulate it, but I know it because it's body language. I know to do this. I know to hold on to something. ask me any question. If you ever yell at me, it's no. If you ever cuss at me, it's no. I'm putting my hand here because I know I'm going to say yes to something. And I got a hold of that. I'm not going to tell you the truth. Right? Jan says when someone's under and doing the polygraph, I can tell you if they're sitting on the left hand, they're lying. I don't care what the polygraph says, they're lying. Or they're holding on to the chair, or they're holding on to their knee, but they're holding on to something with the left hand. Now, having said that, if they're left-handed, and this is, I soothe myself with my right hand, and I would do this. Doesn't mean I'm lying. I'm trying to do this. I'm just soothing myself. And this is really hard for me to talk about right now. I'm not lying. I'm not doing this because to avert or to defraud you or to not show you that I'm lying. Comfort. Does that make sense? So it's again, I've said this over and over. I'm repeating myself, but you can't take one thing and say, "Well, you did that. That means this." It just doesn't. It means it's a possibility. I want to verify it a couple times. Right? So. Just fun fact: if someone puts their hands in their pockets, has anybody ever seen someone put their hands in their pockets and they jingle what's in their pocket? Do you know what that means? They were worried about money. If you say, "Yeah, my fee is 3%," that means it's 21,300, whatever. They do this. They may not even have money, but they put their hands in their pocket, and then you see this. This is what you do. They want to feel, do I have money? Do I have enough money to do this? What do we do? What's this? Yeah, so what do we do if we want to show that we're broke? What do we do? You go like this. Like you're pulling your pocket. So we're talking about how much that's going to cost. Let's talk about that in a second. I'm worried about the cost of it.
What if they don't have pockets?
Well, then
Right. Cause like you could be
They
talking
might.
to a woman,
They
right?
literally
So she
might.
could be wearing a skirt and doesn't
I'm
have
just saying.
pockets, right?
for a man, well,
Yeah.
let me clarify
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
It's mostly for a man. A man will put his hands in his pocket and do this 'cause- or a woman, what a woman does, they'll grab the purse and move closer to it. Or they'll touch it, or they'll sit there and go, oh yeah, there it is. But you want to know in that moment when you're talking about money, where is it? Do I have money? Right. Does that make sense? I think I had one more fun fact just about that. Pulling up the socks, hands in the pocket, lying, touching your face. Yeah, I think that's all. So here's a couple things in closing. Joe Navarro writes a book. He was the FBI agent who taught body language. He has a book, and his book is phenomenal. It goes through all of this stuff. He breaks it down, and it is really, really good. I've listened to it probably 3 or 4 times, just as a reminder.
What's the name of it?
I'll tell you. I should have it on the slide here. I was thinking about it. Joe. The power of body language. Navarro. Joe Navarro. Problem is, honestly, he's super boring as you listen to it. So you want to listen to it at like 1.25. It's got a little bit like, okay, now you're talking. He's like, hi, my name is Joe Navarro. Today we're going to be talking. Speak this. You might even go 1.25. Jan Hargrove, Hargrove. Jan Hargrove. Her book says, what I forget what it's called, business and body language, or business body language and business, or what your body is saying in business, or something like that. I can't remember the title of it. But that book is that's a really small book. It just kind of highlights it. It's almost like just an outline of everything we've kind of talked about, but it's super high level. Joe Navarro goes into the detail of it to kind of understand really what a person's thinking. She kind of just says, if a person's doing this, they're lying. He goes into here's what's happening in their mind and why it's going on, or why they use the left hand and why this is happening. Jan just kind of gives you the top layer of it. That makes sense. So, any final questions before we end? Okay. Notice this. Here's why I want to give you this assignment. Really, make a plan of what an awareness of when you meet with clients for the first time. That you're not always doing it or underdoing it. Make a plan of how you engage when you talk to your spouse. Because you're so comfortable that limbic system just takes over and you're doing things that you don't really mean because you're emotionally engaged in something in a difficult situation with them. And then your body language is really what's conveying mostly what you're saying. Right? So when I talk to Viv, I'm not the best at this, but I do try to make an effort with this. I try to put my hand to my face like this. I try to be small because I'm really, if I was really upset, I'm so upset about this. Or I can be animated just because I'm animated. I do this. So the bigger I get, the more threatening I can become. So I have to, you'll notice, when someone asks a question, I do this intentionally because I don't want to go, oh, what's your question? Right? So I'll do this when I talk to them, like, I gotta do this. It's important that I'm smaller and I'm listening. Are we going to do it with my kids? So what are we going to do? Makes sense? So it's an awareness. Secondly, notice, or lastly, is just notice your body is going to convey how you feel for the day. Total confidence is when your words and your tone and your body language are in alignment. That's what real confidence is. That's how you know you're confident in that situation. Right? So just notice that for you, when you wake up, your body is going to tell you, it's going to give you an indication of where you're at mentally. You may not know it yet because you just woke up and you're waking up, but your body is giving you a clue. So just notice, are my shoulders forward? Am I kind of like this? And you can say that, and then you start thinking poorly, you can just say, wait a second, I can shift that. I must not, I'm afraid, or I'm not safe today. I'm doing something hard because I'm starting out like this. I want to put my shoulders back, stand straight up, and sometimes I will just, in the morning, I'll just stand like this. Because this is a power pose, just like this. If I do this. So I will stand like this and just think about this. Put my head straight up and do this. I'm just going to stand like this for a minute, just to stand like that. Because I am going to make this thing good, even though it's going to be hard. When I do this, then that language tells my brain I'm okay because I can do this. So those three things. I would tell you that a practice of this and awareness of this is sometimes the only thing that's holding you back from where you want to go in your business. Because this conveys so much more than you can ever convey with words. And when you have your script memorized, and you can say it with the tone you need to, and then you have this awareness of of the alignment of your body, you can make sure that it's in alignment with what you want to convey. You will say things greater than what your script is, because your body says you are confident in what you have done, and you can kind of step out and say and change the hands that want to change them. Makes sense? So Thank you for letting me be here today. I would like for you to fill out the survey. It would help me. And then also, just because this is a class that I think is important, if you felt like it was important, if you take something, and I'm not just saying, I'm saying this to make an awareness of this, but if you take and you post that on social media and then you just tag me on it, tag Louis Talks or whatever, you just tag me on it, it helps me to promote this class and to teach it to more people because I think it's super important in how we do our business. So thank you for letting me do this.
Thanks, Louis.
I can just put the feedback sheet up here again. So have you ever had someone that felt that way? Actually, every time they get to the top somewhere,
All the time. Yeah. Yeah.
So what I would just tell you is that just know that they're doing that and they're feeling a little bit nauseous because you come across something that could be if my life sees you the guy wanted to use me as the teenager.
Communicating? Yeah, no,
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if they're stepping away, I would just say that we're not safe, we're not safe, and all that. And then they need more reward for their benefits. So then I would just work on asking them, building that rapport and saying, talk, this, they're unsafe, like never say, why would they be unsafe? Maybe they don't know, like, say, from like I said, they give you the wrong attention.
No, I didn't.
They don't want anything
Yes.
that they like you or whatever, they could be on time. So all you can do is just be very neutral in that relationship. Be very supportive. And then watch that shift. Right? You watch it shift. And then once you get that first person, like this create them this company. And I ask them, in the beginning of our relationship, we felt we were standoffish, right? So, yeah, and you ask them the question.
What's that?
Hey.
Not
Yeah.
How are you doing?
So good.
Good.
Yeah, that's good.
Afraid. Yeah, afraid. It just means like they were stand off.
Yeah.
Yeah, stand off. So if you were to say, you felt stand off, I noticed in the beginning of a relationship, you were like this. And then later on, you were like this. What happened?
Don't forget there's lunch in there.
Does that make sense? You have to ask them, what did
Yeah.
I do? Is it for having to do for that person? It's what you're going to need to do for the next person. Does that make sense? So, how do you make them feel comfortable when you do? Or you can say, why did you feel this? What did I do? And they might say,
Oh, you were? Oh, no.
No, it wasn't for first
maybe
like
I'm not, I don't do that.
I can get a break.
Right. So I can tell you like, Tina in our office, she's not much, she's
Yeah, this is
Mexican. And she's very like,
we
she's like, like she's just, she'll very text me. And first with her, I'm like,
Can't do
I had to realize this isn't anything like, you know, like inappropriate. No, she's just your body is fine.
Have fun with the kids.
And so I had to have this awareness of,
Like, it's good.
so you have to, your culture is not their culture. And so you have to, and they're not in the culture, that you have to act according to their culture. Yeah, that's right. So that's what I'm saying. So I would just do that. And then again, once you gain that first confidence in that person, that's inevitable. Then the next time you do it again, what did I do? And you're just asking them, what was I doing that made you feel
Yeah. You guys next daily?
So just I would just be allow the first couple times to go. That's what I'm saying. Just being aware of it would be so
It's not like,
yeah, don't be offended by it. Just,
I just know never mind. This is just
yeah, that's right. Yeah, but if you think, oh, you know, I'm offended by it, or they're offended by it, then what happens to you is it makes you be more. It engages you in the fight or flight. And you don't want to do that, so you just want to be like that.
I needed to be flexible for here. I cannot be.
Right. So I'll tell you, like, if a woman is engaging me, so if we think to face it, so if a woman is engaging me, but she's like this, and she's touching me, I'm like, not so, or even if she's like this, it's kind of like she's trying to come into this too. If you see what I'm saying. And now she's talking about this, just really like back, and not so just. See, just that alone. If I'm like this, it feels like I'm toe to toe with you. But if you just do this, this conveys. Just notice how you feel. If I'm like this, I'm talking about this. You're like, oh, I feel sick because you're really bad. Kind of hands together, whatever. That you're not coming. My wife has a friend that she'll talk to me about this. She's not like, you know, and she's always like, Amanda, not she. She's like gonna kiss you on the side. I'm like, quit, because she just does this, right? But I know that that's just we know that, but what it conveys to anybody else is implying it's just always like this. So that's what I'm saying. It just do that.
Yeah. I said in Brazil is different because the men are very open to women.
That's right.
So we always need to be like okay, I'm equal.
That's right.
Understand? So we needed to treat men like I am here, I'm equal. And if you do like something like that, oh my gosh, we are like
Yeah.
but over here I needed to
That's right. You need to do that. That's not Yeah, that's right. Tell me your name again.
Vivian.
Oh, that's my wife's name.
Really?
Yeah, Vivian.
Vivian Johnson.
Oh, cool. And you just.
And I've been here just 5 years. I came here and just my sister, she's from here, and my husband was here. She was actually here 1 week after my sister.
That's right.
Yeah, and we are very happy. This is I don't understand. I always talk to him like, Jeff, what? The men are like, they're afraid of me. And he said, you're way, like, you look like a strong woman.
Yeah.
And business can be afraid. But I didn't know how could I do to change this. I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
What's awesome about this is
yeah,
all you got to do is just
exactly, because it's my responsibility
Yes.
to add my English is working to adequate over here.
Yeah.
I don't think they have they need to understand. No, I'm here, so I need to be.
That's right.
You know, I wanted to show the right message. And I said, when the women's are together, it's easier for me. You know why? Because I'm always friendly, and then I know how to.
Right, because
So
women
I'm
have
always-
each other. Women,
Yeah,
but
like if you are here and your wife is here, even though I'm going to talk to him, oh, you're so, oh, how are you?
yeah,
And oh, yeah, it's so nice. And I get it here
comfortable.
comfortable and safe. Because she should be, because it's genuine.
That's right.
Because I'm not kind of the one to do that.
That's right.
I'm
That's right.
extremely loyal and I respect. I'm very like jealous about me and my. So I understand this and I show them I'm here. I say. So this is okay. The problem is when you're and century sometimes I'm going to talk to someone and I have to. It's not a client, but and they're like, it was okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
So
couldn't figure
again,
it out.
it's
But
just,
this is
it's
the
literally
difference.
just the difference of
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like a problem. So do this, just over the next week, just do this and see if you don't feel different. Because what happens is you will feel different, then they will feel different, and then that's all there is. That's why I said this in the end. Really, this could be the only difference in this makes you business. It makes all the difference.
Yeah. It's very important. Because you are showing what you are, they cannot see
That's right.
the way you are doing is just the
That's right.
outside.
That's right.
So you need to give the right image.
Yeah, 100%.
Nice to
So
meet
glad
you.
to talk. Yeah, you
Nice
too.
to meet you. Really?
Yeah.
My name is Lauren Husky.
Oh, oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
I just wanted to tell you.
Awesome. Thank you. Wait, tell me your name again. House. Yeah, he was saying like that. This is so good. And he's like the best. Like you changed your name. No, like that's awesome.
House Connect is my last name. I'm over at Time Real Estate, so you see that. That's what I just wanted to appreciate what you did. Information is so useful.
Thank you. I'm such a good time. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I just thanks God. I keep on this up.